The music is in my head. So I'm happy. Yeah. Let's go. Let's do this.
All right. We're thinking about something, emotions. We want to talk about emotions. And it's how that emotions are a very personal thing. And many times, even with other human beings that you can see, even with the closest people to you, or let me not say you, or some of you, or some of us, don't feel like exposing that internal part, how we're feeling, to other people. We don't feel like doing that.
Go for close people.
Yeah.
We might tell you like maybe a bit.
How are you?
But
I'm fine.
yeah, how are you? I'm fine. And if the person pushes a bit,
Presses, yeah.
you might tell them like, maybe like just the tip of the iceberg information, but like 90% is underneath.
Yeah.
Right. And that's if you are a person who even is self-aware.
True.
To a large extent. Because if you are not self-aware, you might not even know that there's a whole 90%.
True.
Right? So you might just be, shedding off like maybe the 5% of the top 10%. But you might not even know that there's a whole 90%. And it's that hidden one that is the dangerous one.
True.
Right?
True.
The
True.
dangerous one.
Okay. I think that, like you have said, the problem of not being able to share comes from not even being aware of what the true emotions are, which takes us to the next point, which is that the thing that you are presenting may not actually be the real thing. So I remember when we first got married, and my face would just be bland. But when my serious face looks like I'm angry, it doesn't look babyish like this. It looks like I am angry at somebody. And so I would just sit down there, maybe I'm pondering on something, and Osham will say,
why are you angry?
Why are you angry? And I'll say, I'm not angry. I'm just thinking, like, I'm just ruminating on something. I'm not angry. And she had to come to terms with it. That's on the one hand. On the other part, I learned that sometimes when I'm irritated at something and it's presenting as irritation or showing as if I am angry or annoyed at something, sometimes it's even a sadness of something else that happened. And then, so the sadness comes from a dissatisfaction with the way something is. But when somebody now forces you to actually speak, it comes out as aggression or anger. But if you drill deep down, it's not that the person was angry, it's that the person was actually sad.
Sadness was the starter emotion.
Yeah, it was a starter emotion, and then
irritation.
Yeah, because so of course all this
what
back
we are trying
and
to say
forth.
is emotions are really like a complex. It's
They're very complex. It's layered.
It's not like straightforward. There are many things on that spectrum of emotion.
But for you, what because you are also a layered human being. So what do you think has helped you?
Man, it would be processing emotions, like just even being introspective and asking myself, wanting to go down deep into like that deeper agenda thing you're talking about. So it might present as, there's like that upper layer feeling of maybe slight jealousy. But then you now drill down deeper. Why did I feel this way? Why did I? So I keep asking myself the why until I get to the root of the emotion. To say, okay, this is what is sponsoring this way that I'm feeling. And then there's the other one, which is like where we are going. It's like processing the emotion with God.
Yeah.
Right. I journal a lot, so I would, write about how I'm feeling and all of that. But I process with God a lot. Because, there's a scripture that says, it's in Isaiah 55, it says, my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts, that's God speaking, my thoughts are higher than your thoughts.
Yeah.
So processing emotions with God is really helpful because it then gives me perspective.
Yeah.
It could be through scriptures, it could be through a conversation I've had with, some other godly friend. It could be through anything, but the
Yeah.
thing is, it would always give me a higher perspective,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I want to jump in there when you say
Yeah.
processing with God and journaling and all that, because somebody may now be thinking, if you say processing with God, is it that you call God down into your room and you call God into your room and then have a conversation with Him? Yeah, more or less like that. So let me walk you through my process. So I have a prayer journal and I have a Bible study journal, two different journals. And in my prayer journal, it's prayers, nothing to me. It's prayers, and that's the first place I write every day. And so I pick it up and I'm writing. Of course, you're giving thanksgiving and everything,
Yeah.
but then there's an overwhelming feeling. Let me give you a practical example. So there's this overwhelming feeling of dissatisfaction about something I didn't get for an extended period. And I'm just pouring out my heart like, God, I am not happy about this thing. I am not happy. In fact, I feel like so. One thing you have to know is that my writing, I started out writing poetry as a teenager. And so when I'm writing this thing, I'm describing in detail, in pictorial detail, how I am feeling. So I am telling God things like, I feel betrayed. Okay. I feel like you are stabbing me and you're twisting the knife in my heart. And this, of course, it doesn't feel right. So you're using certain pictorial words in there just to describe, like letting God know. And because it is my prayer journal, it is a dedicated space for God. That's one thing you have to know. So when we say things like, is it that you're inviting God? That's what I see it as. That in this place, I have dedicated this book, journal, jotter, whatever it is, unto God. It's our meeting. It doesn't mean He doesn't speak to me in other ways or that I cannot pray using my words, but that I dedicated this space to telling Him, giving Him updates. So it's like a board meeting. Okay, He is a stakeholder. So I come and I give daily updates. I come and I say, this is how I'm feeling. And here's what happened there. So the first time I did all this, I wrote and explained everything. I gave everything beginning to end and asking questions, just like Job asked questions. And not quite 5 minutes later, I just feel in my spirit, open to Psalms 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's Psalms 32. And I'm reading this whole thing, and it's just encouragement. And I'm like, wow, you would not even let me be. I think this is Psalms 32 or so. But yeah. But yeah, it was, I felt so encouraged. I felt so seen, first of all. I felt heard, I felt seen. And the words were encouraging. They were apt for where I was at that moment.
Yeah.
That's one. Okay. And so I'm just trying to help you see that there's a process. There's a preparation thingy. Before I started putting those things down, I may not have known just how deep the hurt was. I just know that I woke up today feeling all sorts.
Yeah.
But once I started writing that down, I was going and going. I was telling God, this is how I feel like, and it just kept coming out until it felt like I probably had transferred most of that bile, that bitter hurt feelings onto the sheet.
Yeah.
So I think that yes, it's great to introspect. It is great to actually sit down, ask yourself questions, and say, why am I feeling this type of way and all that. But a greater level is when you take it to God. There's this hymn that comes to mind. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. In prayer, not in complaining. You take it to God in prayer and you carry everything, and everything, it's not just Your needs, that thing of meeting you at the point of your needs, your emotional needs as well. Many times we're thinking financial needs and stuff, but your emotional needs, your emotional. Okay, I think it's a really big deal. And just in case you're thinking, oh well, and that still drives me to read the Bible. What about a day where I'm not feeling like reading the Bible? You were in the midst of Bible study and stuff. I give you a second example. So I was jotting, and I'd written everything in my journal. I was feeling that way again, a different day entirely. And I was just writing and writing and writing and asking questions and questions and questions and just telling God, help me because I don't feel like this today. This one was even worse because I said I didn't want to open my Bible at that point in time. And so I didn't even, after I finished praying and everything, I didn't open my Bible. I just sat there, doing some other things. And so minutes later, this woman right here asks me a question. Do you have access to social media? Yeah, I shared something there. I just felt like it would help. We didn't have a conversation. I didn't tell her how I was feeling. Okay. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't emote to her or anything. It was just a normal, everyday morning. I come in and I say, hey, yo, how are you? How's your life? I just do some banter in the office and then get to whatever it is you want to do. If it's like you want to do your work, if it's like you want to study. And she just sends me something. I just like, check it out. I go and boom. God again. Yeah. Okay. And I read the thing from beginning to the end. Like, I see, God is intentional. God is really intentional. That's if you think that God is not intentional, let me give you a practical example. So I was reading the Joseph story recently, and you see how Joseph had to go through slavery, go to the prison because he was accused of assaulting somebody, and just going through that whole journey before finally becoming prime minister. But when he's discussing this thing with his brothers, he's telling them that God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. You see, in that statement, unpacking that statement, you then get to see that, yes, God sent him ahead to preserve life. To preserve the life of the Egyptians, to preserve the life of Israel, Jacob, and the 12 sons and their children and their wives, to preserve their lives, to preserve the lives of other nations of the world. And the plan did not start immediately in 1 year, in 2 years, in 7 years. No. The plan started over a decade before when Joseph was sold into slavery. Okay? Mm-hmm. So every single individual that came to Egypt to buy grain was in that plan when Joseph was being sold into slavery. All the nations that were coming to Egypt to buy grain, aside from, because when you look at this thing, we think it was just Jacob who sent his sons to go and buy grain. No, there were other nations of the world, people from other nations of the world that knew that there's grain in Egypt, and they were coming. All those people, their children, their animals, their donkeys, whatever it is, all of them, even the baby that was born, probably on the day that the famine was going to end, was in the plan when Joseph was sold into slavery. And so the plan is so detailed that you cannot outplan God. And so what makes you feel like in such an elaborate plan, you are outside of his will? Okay, and sometimes it's okay to feel down, but it's great when you take it back to the one who is intentional about you, and he reminds you. Yeah. Okay, he reminds you. And so, just thought to have this whole conversation, even though I've hijacked it. This whole conversation of processing your emotions with God, there's no better person for you to process with.
And I think that for processing, there's a danger of not even processing God. And I remember King's story, because as I think about it, I feel like God highlighted to him, God said, there's sin, outside your door, just waiting to pounce on you.
Yeah.
But if you tell me about how you're feeling, because God even opened up that conversation, was inviting him into a processing conversation to say, let me even hear from you. Let me hear how you're feeling, because I can see that you are angry.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it together, because God is like, if you had, done what Abel had done, I would have accepted your sacrifice, because for God is first about like the
It's
man
principles.
before the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like he said, I would have. So why are you angry? But Cain refused to process that anger. He refused to process how he felt with God, and he ended up with murder.
Yeah.
He ended up with him murdering his brother. But look at David, for example, and how he was going through like this David went through intense times, like elongated periods of not seeing like the manifestation of the promise that was given to him as a teenager, right? Running from cave to cave when God had anointed him king. Imagine how a person like that would have felt. Yet he had the restraint to not kill Saul when he had the chance. And I think it's because he was really so aware, like he was in that consistent rhythm of, opening up his heart to God to say, God, this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling discouraged. I'm feeling betrayed, all of that. And it reminds me of like this recent personal experience where it was like, I felt offended by someone who's like not on my level. Can you imagine? But then it was just this, feeling of offense. And then I was like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling this way? And I'm taking it to God and I'm asking God, why am I feeling this way? And I'm even saying, and in me digging deeper, and I even start to realize that on the surface, it feels like, oh, I'm offended. But down, it was really like the fear of rejection. Just even trying to, manifest in different ways. But I was like, I recognize that the root of how I'm feeling is this fear of rejection. Funny enough, it wasn't even like a journaling thing.
Yeah.
It was just me having this back and forth conversation with God to say, God, please, I need you to examine my heart. Because this year, I came into this year saying my love walk is going to be excellent. I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to allow my heart to be this place that is like a fertile ground for like offense and anger and, nonsense emotions to like take root and bear fruit. No. So I was saying, God, examine my heart. And he showed me, it's like, you are scared because you are interpreting this as, a sign of rejection. But that's not it. Then the Lord now started to walk me through like this person's journey in my life and all of that. And I was like, oh, it was just a very stupid, like the enemy was just trying to bombard my mind with like rubbish thoughts. And if I had not like processed this thing with God, maybe I would have ended with, oh yeah, fear of rejection. Then what next?
Then what next?
Then what's next? Right? What next? So yeah, I mean, it's really very critical, and it's something that you can grow in. You can actually grow in. It just starts with God. This is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Help me walk this journey.
Being vulnerable.
It can't even happen without vulnerability. Complete, open, honest vulnerability in a way that might even be difficult to do with like a partner or a close friend or all of that. Where you're like, God, it's me and you. And I think that's why David would always say, search me, O God, and know test me and know my thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way that is, everlasting. Lead me in the path of life. So I just really feel like, whatever it could be for you, could be in silence, but you're just asking God questions. It could be writing out your thoughts. It could be having conversations with, a close confidant. Whatever it is, but at the end of the day, always make sure that you are asking God questions.
Yeah.
And you are even praying actively to say, God, please show me. Show me, like I want to see from a vantage point. I want to see from an elevated perspective. I like that scripture that says, set your mind on things above and not on things below, right? I think it's such a great way to live as believers. It's like most of the things you were saying. So like it would be an Instagram post. It could be something, but that God will not speak to you or show you how to see things.
It's a lie.
It's not possible.
Except you, and even when you try to ignore him, like I said, I was not going to read the Bible. You find a way. God finds a way. It's just that many times we go and pick and choose with itching ears the kinds of things that we want to listen to. You can't blame God. to be very honest with you. And so this is just to encourage somebody to know that God is always there.
Yeah.
God is always there whenever you need to process your emotions, whether it's emotions from a sin,
Yeah.
whatever it is, God is there. In fact, if it is a sin or a feeling of guilt, please don't think that God is going to slap you when you come to Him. No, you should actually run. That's the time that you should actually run to Him, because see, when the devil decides to sift you as wheat, he would first of all drag you into isolation. So it's maybe secret sin. He would drag you into isolation. Then he can really deal with your mind and ultimately lead to death. That's what it is, whether spiritual death or physical death. That's what happens. And so you want to run to God early enough. Okay. That's it for this episode.
We hope this was helpful for you.
I remain supreme.
And I'm
this
Osham.
is the lovely Osham. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.